The most terrifying form of evil is that which lurks within the human mind.
This is an asylum for the incurably insane.
Asylum, filled with stark, raving terror. From Robert Bloch, author of Psycho. Asylum, the ultimate in horror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return. See Asylum. You have nothing to lose but your mind. Rated PG.
Tonight, if it's all right with you, I'd like to ask for your permission to go back in time. To travel back to an era when the world was filled with so much promise. The days of the Sega Dreamcast, the Surge Soda and the Taco Bell Baja Chalupa, the grilled stuffed burrito. Back in the year of our Lord 1997, I was a middle schooler with less responsibilities and more freedoms than I could ever imagine. Looking back, it was the best of times. I was a latchkey kid. I was the oldest of my two siblings, which meant for a few hours after school, I was in charge. This period of my life, anything was possible and nothing was off the table. I just moved from Washington State to the armpit of Oregon, known famously for turning a small town of 15,000 conservative backwater bugler tobacco rolling having rednecks into 100,000 overnight with the world-famous Pendleton Roundup that's happening right now in my hometown. A place I could not stand. It was a cruel, vile joke for a kid who was used to the big cities of Olympia, Seattle, Vancouver, and Portland. I felt isolated. I felt like I was on an island, and that's important to remember. I was plucked from my friend group and just thrown into this big-ass, backward, chunky cowboy stew. I had to start over. To be the new kid in town and making friends at 13, well, that shit fucking sucks. That shit's fucking hard. It messes with your self-worth, your psyche, the whole nine. I quickly made friends and latched onto the punk kids at school who had older brothers big on tape trading and horror films on VHS. My particular new best friend was a cat I met through my paper route, named Eddie Spaghetti. Eddie loved White Zombie. Eddie had an older brother who loved No Effects and the Misfits. Eddie's older brother would buy beer and let us watch extreme videos. For just a few minutes, I was like, man, I found my people. One particular October evening, Eddie and I sat down in his basement listening to Smells Like Children from Marilyn Manson and getting stoned to the bone. He pulled out the Nine Inch Nails Broken, the video cassette, unedited. We watched that shit. Two other VHS that came out that night was A Clockwork Orange and a little Hammer horror film known as House of Crazies, better known as Asylum. We inserted this trusty VHS into our Magnavox VCR and then we waited. For those of you who haven't seen Asylum, it's a nasty little horror film. Boosted by the great Peter Cushing, it takes its time before sprawling out this tricky little four-piece anthology straight out of hell. I was locked the fuck in. There's just something about those adolescent years where others can so easily influence and open your eyes to films that you would never even know to exist. That's what happened with me in Asylum. I've gone on record to say that it's my favorite horror anthology of all time. Gun to my head, just barely beating out Creepshow and Tales from the Dark Side. For me, it's Asylum. It's my core. It's my roots. The short story Frozen Fear follows a man who needs to murder his wife in cold blood for her money and mistress. It freaked me the fuck out. Not that I hadn't seen more effective horror scares before, this was my first exposure to any sort of Hammer horror film, I think, besides maybe a few Dracula films. And the way they like to handle their business, man, it was good. As the husband's affair escalates to brandishing an axe, it's time for crude dismemberment in the Frozen Fear, the opening segment of this film. Limb by limb, he removes her torso and proceeds to wrap her crudely in this butcher paper. When those limbs came back to life and the head started breathing like a fish trapped inside a paper bag,
goose flesh. Goose flesh covered my arms, goosebumps.
I was hit with a real sense of the willies back then, being a 7th grader. I was like, this is what I needed. These are my people. And we're just getting started. Asylum proceeds to unroll story after story of this twisted macabre, with my favorite being the weird tailor, the 2nd chapter. Forever it's imprinted in my brain and lives rent-free in my fucking head. There is something to this day about the weird tailor. Let me just explain this story to you for a second. We are in England, I would imagine, and it's probably the 1800s, and our homeboy, this tailor that makes wonderful clothes for people, is short on his rent. He's having a hard time, and his old landlord comes to give him the boot, says by Monday, or maybe it's by Saturday, you've got the rent or you're out on your ass, pal. Take it to the atches, right? So what does he do? Somebody comes in with an unbelievable price. An unbelievable proffer happens. This man comes in and says, I need you to make this suit. It's for my son. But there's a catch, a very Lovecraftian catch. You can only work on it with these detailed instructions by the moonlight, between the witching hour of 3 a.m. to 12, right? It's very even thinking about it and being a kid, it just makes me nervous. It makes me so happy. My legs, dude, are covered in goosebumps thinking about there was something so like surreal to this story, The Weird Tailor, the way that he creates this suit and he goes with Peter Cushing and he's so desperate to have it because he's got to put it on his son. His son is in the coffin and the son needs to rise from the dead. It is like just this Necronomicon, this Lovecraftian, just surreal cosmic horror evil, and I am about it, man. I thought it was one of the best short stories ever. Frozen in Fear fucks, but The Weird Tailor to this day gets my blood. I fucking you guys, I love it. Asylum, the House of Crazies, as it continues to go on, there's another story that's a little Stepford Wivesy. There's a tale about, I'm not crazy, no, you're crazy, no, I'm losing my mind, no, if I ever see her again, I'll stab my... It's got everything you need. Like it said in the beginning, it's got Robert Bloch from Psycho, and it's got one of the best wraparound stories for anthology. I mean, I know that it's cheesy, I know that it's dated, but if you guys know me, you know how much I love made-for-TV style horror films, especially of the PG parental guidance variety. Asylum is so good, and you know, forget Charlie Band and the whole Empire thing. Asylum was doing things that was probably almost 10 years before Puppet Master had ever even been thought of, with their little puppets and the way that it's set up. You've got character actors from A Clockwork Orange. Of course, you've got horror greats. You've got the author of Psycho. This is a hell of a good 1972 horror film. And really, it's such a big part of my horror journey because I didn't really know, you know, my whole identity shifted when I was forced to move and like kind of enter this new part of my life and make new friends. And I was like, my new friends like films like this. I like Nightmare on Elm Street. They like this. They're a little bit different, but you know what? We can all get along, and it's just become a part of me. And so I'm always talking about it. I'm always telling people they need to check it out. Now listen, Black Sabbath's got my favorite segment with The Drop of Water. That is an incredible segment. Incredible bava, I'm telling you right now. But if you don't have Asylum, man, you were doing yourself a major disservice. This film has never ever looked this good from Severin. The problem with this Severin release right here, it gives you the original cover art, and that's great. This has so much grain, it's like you're smoking a damn Camel Red. It is thick. It is thicker than Pears and Mrs. Butterworth's ass. It is hard to get through in some spots. If you're watching this on an old TV, you know, that's kind of like made for DVDs, it's going to look okay. But when it tries to upconvert, you lose so much fidelity and picture quality, and the audio is really staticky and not great until now. Severin has outdone them fucking selves with this Asylum release. Look at how gorgeous the Frozen in Fear head is. That poor woman with her charms. I'm telling you, man, this Asylum 4K, I've watched it twice because I wanted to see the difference from the fucking Blu-ray, and just to make sure that the other one was scaled, you know, or whatever. This 4K, it's never gonna look better. It's not gonna look like something like Jaws. It's not filmed the same way. It doesn't have the same money behind it. This is like a made-for-TV. This is a Hammer film, okay? But it's not gonna look better than this. This right now, I'm not paid by Severin to say anything. I just love this film, and I was thinking today about how I've kind of come around, you know, thinking about everything going on out in the world. It was hard to want to even make content with just everything going on, and I started thinking about, oh my God, my brother's in Pendleton for his birthday. It's the roundup, the Pendleton fucking, you know what that reminds me of? Asylum. It reminds me of being 12, 13, and finding these movies for the first time, and just kind of really taking a chance on starting over in a new place, getting new friends, listening to better music, meeting new girls, and watching way better cinema. Guys, love one another out there. Take care of yourselves. If you're new here, I do this kind of stuff all the time. Like, comment, subscribe, but you don't have to. You can just talk some shit down there to you. I love you. Cheers.